Hi everyone, it's Katrina. Number 10. Queen Puabis DNA. In 1922, British archaeologist Leonard Woolley discovered the tomb of Queen Puabi while excavating the Royal Cemetery of Ur. Coincidentally, it was the same year Howard Carter discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun in Egypt. It's a big year for archaeology. Puabi is believed to be a queen who ruled the ancient Sumerian city of Ur in the First Dynasty, circa 2600 BC. Her position as queen was determined by the title Nin, found within her tomb. This meant she was either the woman ruler of Ur or the high priestess. Archaeologists assumed she was queen, and the discovery was even more sensational because she wasn't found connected to any king. Queen Puabi likely ruled the entire kingdom of Sumer by herself, something not many experts believed possible a century ago. The discovery of Queen Puabi changed how we view the ancient Sumerians. Her mere existence as a solo female ruler indicates a massive degree of cultural progression. But there is also a possibility that Queen Puabi was an alien. According to the late ancient astronaut theorist Zecharia Sitchin, the Nin title in Queen Puabi's grave did not mean queen. It was a term that translates to goddess. Zecharia was under the impression that if the queen's DNA was tested, it would show proof that she was not entirely human. The theory behind the Sumerian queen is that she was an ancient demigod, a half-breed of mixed human and Anunnaki heritage. She was placed on the throne by her alien creators to help oversee one of humanity's first civilizations. Zecharia Sitchin died in 2010. As far as we know, no one has ever done a detailed DNA investigation on the mysterious Sumerian queen. So what do you think? Do we need the Natural History Museum to share DNA test results for Queen Puabi, or should we just leave her alone? Number 9. Mysterious prehistoric creature. Researchers were excavating a sheep field in the country of Wales when they came across a pair of extremely old fossils. These fossils are around 460 million years old. They date back to a time when Wales was covered by an ocean. The fossils, although they resemble an extinct marine creature called opabinids, may represent an entirely new species previously unknown to science. The exciting discovery was made by researchers Joseph Botting and Lucy Muir at the National Museum Wales during the COVID-19 lockdown. When the lockdown started, they began combing remote areas looking for fossils, seeing as they couldn't do much else. And that was when they found the bones of the mystery creatures in the sheep field. These fossils are extremely small. One is only about half an inch, while the other is only 0.1 inches. These weren't exactly megalodons swimming through the ancient oceans. The largest of the fossils has been named bramble snouts. It had no eyes, a long and spiky snout, and kind of looked like an underwater alien. It likely used its snout to slurp up food in the sand at the bottom of the ocean. It also lived during the Cambrian explosion, a time when countless weird monstrosities began to evolve in the water, long before creatures started slithering onto dry land. Scientists have even speculated the bramble snouts could belong to a group of extremely ancient arthropods, meaning they would be related to modern crabs and millipedes. Number 8. The MH370 Mystery. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 departed from the Kuala Lumpur International Airport on March 8, 2014. It was supposed to arrive in Beijing several hours later, but it never did. 30 minutes after the plane took off, as it cruised over the South China Sea, the plane disappeared from the ATC radar. Military radar tracked it a little while longer as it deviated west and then disappeared. The plane has never been found, and its 227 passengers and 12 crew members are presumed dead. What really happened on March 8th is still an unsolved mystery. But the mystery just got a little weirder, with a piece of the aircraft being discovered in the possession of a Madagascan fisherman. The fisherman supposedly pulled the piece of debris off the beach in 2017 and took it home. He was then found with the debris in 2022, leading to renewed interest in the aviation disaster. The piece of wreckage found on the beach is called a trunnion door, and it's a fairly important component. According to Richard Godfrey, a British engineer, the piece shows significant damage. Richard says the fractures on its sides and mangled state show that the plane hit the water at extremely high speed. To cause such damage, the plane would have been in a speeding nosedive, and this would have shattered the aircraft into as many pieces as possible. Some believe this means the pilot crashed the plane on purpose, although it's still way too early to tell. Number 7. Ancient Israeli Bullet. A bullet from 2,200 years ago has just been discovered in Israel. How is this possible? Well, it's not the kind of bullet you're thinking of. It is a lead sling bullet, a projectile that would have been hurled at someone from a primitive, long-ranged weapon. It's like a rock and a rubber band, but much more powerful. The bullet was excavated in Yavne, found with 2 very interesting inscriptions on it. On one side of the bullet, someone carved the word Nike, which means victory. On the other side, someone carved the names of Heracles and Hronos, 2 Hellenistic gods. According to the Israel Antiquities Authority, the bullet is physical evidence of a huge battle between the ancient Greeks and the Hasmoneans. The bullet likely belonged to a Greek soldier and would have been aimed at one of the Jewish Hasmonean troops. Heracles and Hronos were the patron gods and guardians of the ancient city of Yavne, which was why they had been carved into the bullet. The battle itself came about because the Seleucid army of Greeks was trying to subjugate the Jews of Israel, and the Hasmoneans were making it difficult. The war that was waged here is so important it's part of the Jewish Hanukkah story. The story claims that the Greeks banned the Jewish Bible, forbade the sacrificing of pigs, and were then beaten out of Israel by the Hasmoneans for their cruelty. This bullet is physical proof that it all really happened. And now for number 6, but first, it's shout-out time! I want to say a big thank you to Kathy Sphere and Angelica Galdos for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos about amazing discoveries. Number 6. Egyptian gold tongues. Archaeologists in Egypt have discovered the remains of mummies who were buried with gold tongues. This strange archaeological discovery was made in a cemetery near the city of Kazna, about 35 miles from Cairo. According to Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, the mummies were buried in wooden coffins. They had grave goods like pieces of pottery and gold artifacts, and relics made in the shapes of flowers and scarab beetles. But the most fascinating part of the discovery were the golden tongues, which date back to about 2,000 years ago. The mummies were buried during the Greco-Roman period, which lasted between 332 BC and 395 AD. This particular piece of Egyptian history began with the fall of Egypt at the hands of Alexander the Great, and it ended with the Roman Empire splitting in half. During this time, mummies with gold tongues were exceptionally popular. Salima Ikram with the American University in Cairo says wealthy individuals would be buried with gold tongues, and sometimes even gold eyeballs. It was a way for the dead to transcend death itself and manifest into divine beings. Because the ancient Egyptians believed the flesh of their gods was made of pure gold, gold was the closest thing to godliness. Number 5. Who is buried in Notre Dame? In 2019, the famous Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris went up in flames. The world watched the ancient cathedral burn, and once the fire was out, archaeologists were sent inside to survey the damage. The damage was significant, and the structure would require much restoration work. It was during restorations and excavations in 2022 that researchers came across a pair of unusual sarcophagi. The researchers were shocked to see the coffins hidden underneath Notre Dame contain decomposing corpses. They had no idea who the skeletons belonged to. After a bit of investigating, it looks like scientists have made some headway. Experts from the University of Toulouse III opened the coffins and studied the bones. They identified both skeletons as being male. Both of the men were very wealthy, and yet they appear to have lived very different lives. One of the dead men suffered from gout, the disease of kings. The other looks like he had a difficult life. The man with gout was identified as Antoine de la Porte, who died at the age of 83 on December 24, 1710. He was a clergyman, which was likely why he was buried underneath the cathedral. The other individual has no name, but lost most of his teeth in the months leading up to his death. It also looks like he died from chronic meningitis after contracting tuberculosis. Number 4. Ancient severed hands. A team of archaeologists made a gruesome discovery in an ancient Egyptian palace. They uncovered approximately 16 severed hands buried in shallow pits. Each of the hands was a right hand, and they all date back about 3,600 years. The hands were found in the city of Avaris. According to Austrian archaeologist Manfred Beitak, the severed hands could be evidence of a macabre Egyptian custom. We know, based on ancient writings, that soldiers believed cutting off the right hand of their enemy would deplete their power for all eternity. Not only did they kill them, but they robbed them of having a good afterlife as well. The soldier then presented the severed hand to whoever was king at the time and may have been given a reward, either financially or superficially. Up until now, researchers didn't know if this was a real thing or not. But considering these severed hands were found near the throne room of an ancient palace, it looks like the Egyptians really may have kept severed hands as war trophies. Number 3. Ancient DNA. Scientists have just discovered ancient DNA from 2 million years ago at the northern tip of Greenland. The area today is an Arctic desert, a vast and empty wasteland chilled by the frigid northern winds. But 2 million years ago, Greenland was a jungle. Mastodons roamed the land. There were towering trees and miles of rough vegetation. Greenland was truly a primeval paradise, extremely different to what it is now. Because animal fossils are difficult to find in Greenland, researchers chose to study the ancient landscape in a different way. They extracted environmental DNA called eDNA. They did this by taking soil samples, sifting through the genetic material, and identifying the genetic material shed by organisms and preserved in the soil. Everything from hair to spit, and even the slime of a decomposed carcass leaves traces behind in the dirt. The eDNA was able to give scientists a small snapshot of what Greenland looked like in its ancient past. They identified fragments of Arctic plants like birch trees and willow shrubs. They also found plants that thrive in warmer climates, like fir and cedar trees. The DNA also showed trace remains of geese, reindeer, lemmings, dung beetles, hares, and mighty mastodons. Love Dahlin, a researcher in evolutionary genomics at Stockholm University, said she would never have expected to find mastodons in northern Greenland. These behemoths have been found primarily in the temperate forests of North America, and yet they lived as far away as Greenland during prehistoric times. Number 2. The origin of water. Researchers have been busy studying a rock that is 4.6 billion years old. It was around at the birth of our solar system. That makes it older than any fossil ever discovered, and yet you wouldn't think it was anything special just by looking at it. The ancient rock is a meteorite from outer space that fell from the heavens and landed on someone's driveway in the UK. It fell so randomly into civilization, it may have just solved the mystery of where our planet's water came from. The meteorite fell to Earth in February of 2021. When it was handed over to scientists, they performed many different tests to understand the composition of the space rock. The most shocking revelation was that the rock contains water with an almost identical chemical composition to the water we have on our planet. In other words, this meteorite and others like it could be the source for all our water. When the planet formed at the beginning of our solar system, it was a very large sphere of rock. It was so hot around our newly formed sun that all moisture evaporated instantaneously. It wasn't until Earth cooled down that water was given the chance to hang around. But there was no water because Earth was a barren wasteland. Scientists now believe water came only after the planet was attacked by a barrage of icy asteroids. Meteorites, just like the one found in the driveway, pelted our world like snowballs. The moisture they contained seeped out, and eventually the water accumulated into the oceans of the world. Number 1. Singing dogs. A group of dogs believed to be some of the most ancient domestic canines on Earth were just rediscovered. The dogs are called New Guinea singing dogs. partly because they live in Papua New Guinea, and the other half because they sing. These dogs howl with a sound similar to that of a humpback whale. It's not only the singing that makes these dogs so strange and fascinating, but also their heritage. In 2018, researcher James McIntyre with the New Guinea Highland Wild Dog Foundation took some DNA samples from trapped wild dogs. Their DNA was linked directly to the ancestral line of singing dogs. They came from prehistoric relatives of dingoes and Asian dogs that humans brought with them to Oceania over 3,500 years ago. Throughout the centuries, the original breed became inbred. The singing dogs that were just found in the wild have had their unique bloodline watered down a lot. But even still, they haven't lost their singing voices. They are also more unique than many dogs in the world, with unusually flexible joints. These dogs can jump and climb like wildcats. Their howls are also so similar to the song of the humpback whale that researchers think there must be a connection, but they just don't know what it is. Thanks for watching! Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and come back soon for more videos. See you later! Bye!